my challenge, not only to every single person on the face of this planet Earth, but also, if there's any civilization on any other planet, it's my challenge to them as well, that Islam is the best savior and protector for women. And I am saying this with all this confidence, not out of arrogance, but because I believe that Islam was revealed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most just and merciful God, the God biased neither in favor of men or women, the creator and sustainer of both men and women. Islam elevates women to a level that has no parallel. Let's just take one example, our Western philosophers and saints. They say that woman is the seat of the devil, but the Quran calls her Muhsana, fortress against the devil. They say that she is the one responsible for our downfall from paradise. But the Prophet Muhammad said, paradise is under the feet of a woman, a mother. And that's not all. She has been given rights and protection in every sphere of life. She has all the basic human rights, including the right of inheritance, of owning property, of choosing her husband, of getting dowry, of divorce, of not only earning money, but even keeping every single cent she earns. And what not. You name it, and it's there.
أسمو وأجتاز السماء جلالا فأزيد أسراب الغيوم جمالا وألون الدنيا بأجمل بسمة وأكون للخير العميم مثالا أسمو وأجتاز السماء جلالا.
Prisoner number 650. Have you heard of those numbers? These are numbers that have been ingrained in my mind for many years now. Aafia Siddiqui is a woman who just got divorced and was quite vulnerable to her situation. She moved from America to Pakistan at her mum's, and with her sister, with her 3 children, she went. 14 years ago, subhanallah, this lady was abducted, and then she disappeared for 5 years. It was told that she was seen in Afghanistan, etc. And then her mother and sister believed that she was actually abducted by the Pakistani intelligence, the ISI. You have to remember that her 3 children were abducted with her, okay? So her daughter and her son, the older ones, they were seen outside the family home. They are with their auntie and their grandma at the moment. But the youngest, who was 6 months at the time, nowhere to be seen. Nobody knows where this baby has disappeared, if he's alive or dead. Subhanallah, nobody knows his whereabouts. Prisoner number 650 goes by the name of Aafia Siddiqui. She is a Muslim that was born in Pakistan and then went to US to study neuroscience. She obtained a PhD in Brandon University in 2001. She was convicted of 2 counts of attempted murder of US nationals, officers, and employees. After that, she was subjected to worse torture in US custody. She is currently serving 86 years sentence at the Federal Medical Center in Texas. Just ask ourselves, as normal human beings that are going about our daily lives, how can somebody get 86 years? Yeah, a life sentence comes up to 14 years depending on which state you are in. You got 86 years. A human being at this day and age, it does not even survive for that long. Subhanallah, 86 years for what? Apparently, she was under interrogation. She shot at some police officers. It was actually her that got taken in for clinical treatment when some bullets were being taken out of her intestines. Now, someone really has to question what was going on there. A woman from a petite frame, and for her to try and fight some officers and employers, etc., one has to really question the nature of such a charge. Her mother Ismat and her sister Aafia Siddiqui have been campaigning and have been going to the Pakistani government for years now to try and bring Aafia back to Pakistan. I remember coming across a message that says to write to Dr. Aafia Siddiqui when Castle Prison in America, and it really struck me as to what can I say to such a woman. You know, what would you write to someone like that who has been given 86 years, who was captured in front of her kids, who disappeared for the first 5 years of her abduction? You know, what can you say to someone like that? Our own lawyer, who was working with the case at the time, said that a lady in this condition, it's hard to even think as a human being in such a condition. Because solitary confinement is not like your ordinary prison. It's a place where it's all concrete, no lights, no windows, except if you're being tortured as well in that area. You know, there's been reports that it could just be literally a drop of water tapping for 23 hours on end, or you know, bright flashlight just, you know, flashed at you for 23 hours, 22 hours. There are reports in Guantanamo Bay where there's loud music for hours on end. Now, one can only imagine in being tortured in that kind of atmosphere. How can anybody, no matter how smart and intelligent and educated one is, what would be left in the mind? What would be left in her brain any further than that? It got me thinking at that time, what can you say to someone like that, subhanAllah? So there was a time when her sister Fawzia asked her, why is she not receiving mail? Why is she not accepting mail? And that's when Dr. Aafia said, what mail? So clearly she's not receiving any of these, you know, because the letters are being checked. And there's nothing to obviously hide. You're writing to a sister in prison that has been tortured and also away from her family, thousands of miles away, for a case that she believes she is innocent in. And she's even proven, she's given facts that, you know, she was linked with Al-Qaeda and Taliban, etc. She said clearly that, look, you know, the documents and stuff like that you found, there's no link with me. You know, she came to US, she studied, she got a PhD, she was doing some charity work, I believe. She was a passionate activist as well, so she was speaking about, you know, the atrocities and any war that was going on at that time. She was helping Bosnian orphans and other orphans that are, you know, from war-torn countries to get a place to stay and have some sort of shelter. So she was generally a passionate activist, and then she got caught up in this horrible mess. She's in a federal US prison, which is notorious for rape, and she has been violated on many occasions. She's even confirmed that to her sister Fawzia and her mother, and she did say at one point as well, you know, I'm sick and tired of, you know, being stripped every time they check me. Just send me back to my country, send me back to Pakistan. Now, one has to question, what has the Pakistani government done for this? There's been endless campaigns by her sister Fawzia, by her family, by many brothers and sisters around the world who have spoken about this injustice and this odd case, an odd charge for a woman who who's vulnerable herself, who was in a state of divorce from an abusive husband. She went back to Pakistan to stay with her mum and sister. Caught up in all of this, where is the human rights that you talk about? Where is the justice that you talk about? You know, subhanAllah, you know, you talk about people's rights and people have a say. She's an intelligent, smart woman who, by the way, spoke up and represented herself on many occasions. You know, she didn't trust the lawyers that were being sent from Pakistan. And why should she? Why would you trust lawyers from somewhere that sent you off in the first place? You know, she said it blatantly that these lawyers have their own agenda. She didn't trust them. How did she end up in Bagram? There was reports that there's a lady who is being tortured and has stayed there for 2 years. Then it turns out to be prisoner 650, who goes by the name of Aafia Siddiqui. Why would she trust the Pakistani government and the lawyers and anything they have to say or help her with? Unfortunately, this is the case of the Muslim leaders today, how they can just easily hand over the civilians that they're supposed to protect and serve. There was a time when the Romans captured a Muslim woman and violated her. He called out to the Khalifa at that time. This news reached the Khalifa, Bilal, who was at Baghdad at the time. He was drinking from a cup. Soon as the news reached him, he stopped drinking. He commanded that the 6th adhan to be called out. This is a sign of an emergency where the Khalifa gives out the call for the Muslims to gather to hear what the problem is. It was reported that the Khalifa, Bilal, asked which place in the Byzantine lands is the most impregnable and securely fortified. He wanted to make a statement and he wanted to reach to the woman at the point the most hardest to get to. And they responded, Amuriya, which is Amorium. No Muslim has ever made an attempt upon it since the coming of Islam. It is the very heart and core of the Byzantiums. In the view of the Byzantines, it is even more exalted than Constantinople, which is Istanbul today. Muqtasim Billah decided that he would attack Amuriya, and it has been mentioned that he equipped himself in such a manner that no previous Khalifa had done before. So large was the army which he assembled for this task that when the head of the army reached Amuriya, the tail end of the army was still in Samara, which is where he was. Muqtasim and his army entered Amuriya on the 17th of Ramadan. Now note this, he was the leader of the Muslims. He gathered the Muslims. At the time of fasting, 17th Ramadan, people are fasting at the time. It's just he entered that land to save that Muslim woman after receiving her call of help. The city was razed to the ground and the Muslim prisoners, including the woman who cried out for Muqtasim, was freed by Muqtasim himself. Subhanallah. Many a times when we hear about these problems happening globally with Muslim women and men being captured, imprisoned, tortured. There's Guantanamo Bay, which Obama promised to close. It still remains open. And now America is under the Trump administration. Now you can only imagine somebody that said that torture works, waterboarding works, all this. There is pretty much zero chance for Muslim prisoners who are accused of so-called terrorism that haven't even been charged will still remain in prison. By one cry of a woman that the leader got together and got a whole army together and went to defeat the Romans, who were, by the way, superpowers at the time. Subhanallah, they didn't wait and they didn't send their officials and their lawyers and, some caseworkers to go to the Roman Empire and deal with the case and release this woman. No, they went there, they made a statement. And it was said that Muqtasim Billah actually wrote a letter to the Byzantium king or leader at the time and said, I will send an army that is so large, by the time it reaches you, the tail of it will be leaving my end. And this is exactly what happened. There are other reports as well that some Romans laughed at the woman and said, oh, your leader will come with the black and white horses. And it was said that he actually got together some black and white horses and marched towards the Roman Empire. Subhanallah. See, this is what I mean. They made statements. They made history. As Muslims, we believe that this life is nothing but a test. And what about us? How can we just sit there and just watch this happening? How can we not have something to say? Because silence is acceptance in Islam. We must never forget the plight of our sister and the many injustices that are happening around the world. We must not be silent. We must continue to speak out. A Muslim does not abandon another Muslim. Ya Allah, forgive us and give us the aid that we need to aid our brothers and sisters. Ameen.
Aafia Siddiqui, Aafia Siddiqui, we pray for you. 650, 650.
These are the numbers of a treasured soul.
650, 650.
A sister or mother with no child to console.
When the situation's bad and it's looking like they're winning, remember Allah sees the one who's sinning, and He also sees the one who's looking out for his women. So I'ma take the stand I should've took from the beginning, and I'ma still smile. I cannot lose in this game. Whether we live or die, they're both winning lanes. Since things remain the same, I fight for a change. Cause what kind of woman has a number for a name? When I first heard this story I was ashamed, embarrassed. No, tell them this ain't the place a man should go. Like what kind of person supports this thing? I'm thinking what?
ألم يأن للذين آمنوا أن تخشع قلوبهم لذكر الله وما نزل من الحق. Has not the time come for Muslims that their heart turn towards Allah, remembrance of Allah and what Allah has revealed, which is the truth? Yes, the time has come. The time is now for us to get together and come up with solutions for these problems. Let none of us think that we cannot make a difference. Yes, we can, if our intention is pure. If we strive in the path of Allah, Allah has said, وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَمَعَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Whoever will strive to reach Allah, Allah will guide him to the way that leads to Allah. And indeed, Allah is with the people who are righteous, who do good deeds, who are the muhsineen. So let us do away with our cultural, traditional, whatever biases, shun everything un-Islamic, and turn towards Islam.